as bad as what we're going through is, it will eventually fade as time moves on.
I'm going to start managing my emotions, and it's all over for you once I figure out how to do this.
Yeah, we get older every day. Got more wrinkles, that's okay. Yeah, we're laughing when we age. Life is like a comedy stage. And that's why we got laugh lines.
Hey, everybody, I'm Kim Holderness.
And I'm Penn Holderness, and welcome to Laugh Lines, where we celebrate the fun, glory, all of the warts, all of the celebrations, all of the stuff that comes with aging.
We're proud of it.
Yes.
Right? We want to live better. If your daughter looked at your old prom dress hanging in the attic and said, wow, Mom, that's great. It's vintage. You're
this
home.
This is the show for you.
You are home. And that actually happened because I think she had a couple friends that were wearing their mom's old prom dresses. And she's like, wow, it's cool that it's vintage though.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
This is our 5th episode, you guys. And we're growing a community. And the more of these we have, the more we hear from you. And you'll learn that you are going to be a very important part of this because you can interact with us at any time on the Laugh Lines Laugh Line.
Or you can email us.
Yeah, and all of that information is in the comments below.
Yeah.
There's an email and a phone number that you can call about whatever you're thinking about. Just let us know. We want to put you on the show.
And we love your comments. Like Clinton Coleman 3227 says, the fact that you both have actual paper on clipboards. Laugh emoji, laugh emoji, laugh emoji. Yes. Okay. So here's the deal. We are producing this show by ourselves, and we were going to get computers just to have information too bulky. It just took up too much. So we were going to get iPads. We don't quite yet have the budget for iPads. So what we want you to do is share this episode with somebody, and then we'll have a budget for iPads. If not, until then, we are sticking with paper and clipboard.
And funny story, because the next thing on the clipboard says another comment on YouTube from our Breadback episode. I can't read this. So I'm like sitting here trying to do this and realizing clipboards don't allow me to zoom in. Can you read that?
Yeah. Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
I have to do this. Okay. Sam with her young eyes.
Sam, can you please read that?
The 30-year-old's coming in
Yeah,
to read
thank
it.
you.
Van's mom 123 said, while navigating through my 60s, I keep finding odd sources of loose areas that no one warned me about.
Oh.
I'm sorry, but what is this fat growing above my elbow? I catch it moving when I'm not, and I don't like it. And then we have Norma Dare, who says, when I first noticed the change in my back, I was horrified. My back is melting.
This is
That's how I felt. That's how I felt.
For Breadback episode.
Yeah, it felt like that was when I saw it on my back. I'm like, is something melting off the side of my body?
Okay, so stay tuned until the end of the show when we discuss Penn's #NotSponsored and our Gen Z slang that we translate this week.
We also may have come up with a new nickname for Kim.
Now on to our guest. This topic can benefit anyone at any age. We were fortunate enough to have met in person Ethan Kross at a recent event. He is lovely and fascinating. I have just finished his book, and I went in, let me tell you, very, very skeptical. So his new book is called Shift, Managing Your Emotions So They Don't Manage You. I'm going to read his bio here in a second, but I will say managing our emotions, especially as we age, I thought it was going to get easier. For me, perhaps it's perimenopause, whatever, the anxiety of it all, like the obsessive thoughts, the spiral. For me, it's gotten harder. Mm-hmm. And his book has some real fact research-based tools that I have in the past couple of days put into practice. I went in very skeptical that I could actually manage my emotions. They actually work. Ethan Kross is a psychologist, neuroscientist, and professor at the University of Michigan, where he leads, get this, the Emotion and Self-Control Lab. He's a leading expert on the science of self-talk and emotional regulation. He's the author of the critically acclaimed book, Chatter, The Voice in Our Head, Why It Matters and How to Harness It, and the new book, Shift, Managing Your Emotions So They Don't Manage You.
In Shift, Ethan unpacks how we can better understand and direct our emotions using science-based strategies that promote clarity, resilience, and well-being. Welcome, Ethan Kross.
Hey, great to be here. Great to see you guys again. Excited to chat.
He's saying again because we met at this sort of weekend retreat with our mutual friend, Adam Grant. And so we just got to talking. Ethan,
great
me,
conversation.
and Kim, we just had this awesome kind of chat with the whole group, and we were just keeping the chat going, talking about what we just heard, and then all of a sudden, Kim and I go, okay, well, we're at our hotel room now, because and Ethan, he'd gotten in the elevator, walked up along with
We were
very
talking the whole
naturally,
time.
but I think we all were hoping that we'd end up at a bar somewhere.
There's no bar.
Well, I think you did invite me into your hotel room for a drink, which I politely declined at that point.
Mostly because there's no drinks at this place. Like, it was an alcohol.
This is true. This is a dry establishment.
I know. Well,
And,
I mean, we're going to get to your book, which was great, but I did go at some point, and I actually don't drink a lot. Don't drink it a lot at all, but there's a lot of learning happening, and I just needed a glass of wine, and
Sure.
I asked, and it was one of those like wellness hotel places, and I asked them, like, where can I get a glass of wine? And they're like, ma'am. And they looked at me, and the shame I felt. I was like,
yes.
oh, okay. Or a hot decaf tea. That would be great.
Yes. Yeah. Lemon ginger tea was more the flavor
That was the vibe.
Of this establishment.
Yes. Yeah. And it was all good. Anyway, I need to know, Ethan, how do you get to be the director of an emotions lab? Like, what's the trajectory there?
You get the job offering, and then you decide, I'm going to name this lab the Emotion and Self-Control Lab. And it really is as simple as that. I mean, there's obviously more technicality. I got a PhD, learned how to use tools of science and neuroscience to study emotion and how to manage it. So I did have some track record before the university that I work at gave me this position. But yeah, that's a common trajectory. So once you get a job at a university, you set up your own lab, and it's kind of like you could think of it like a startup, right? And I'm gonna now build this organization. The mission of this organization that I created, this Emotion and Self-Control Lab, was to improve our understanding of how people can manage their emotions to live better lives.
When I hear University of Michigan Emotion and Self-Control Lab with no other context, my thought is, okay, these are a bunch of like college kids that he is just messing with. And they're learning, but they're willing to do it, and they're all learning a little something. So they're in college and they're like, holy crap, like Professor Kross, like we just did this weird thing and now we're learning more about ourselves. Am I anywhere in the ballpark? Because it sounds like kind of fun.
Well, it is a lot of fun. Sometimes we do put people in uncomfortable positions to learn more about how to help them. So I always like to give people that disclaimer. So I view my job as to figure out how people can effectively manage the curveballs that life throws at us, which I don't know about the two of you, but for myself and a lot of people I know, like, I get those pitches almost every day. And the question is, like, what happens when you do? Some people really go down the vortex of despair, doom and gloom, anxiety, anger, sadness, and others are able to rebound really quickly. And so in order to test predictions about, hey, what are the tools? What are the exercises that you can use to, if we stick with the sports example, hit 400 or be a psychological jujitsu expert? Like, I've got to induce some pain. I've got to put them at the plate and throw that curveball in the first place. So what do I mean by that? A long time ago, when I started my career, we were really interested in understanding how people could better manage social pain, like the pain of being socially rejected. Either of you ever have any familiarity with that experience?
So ADHD, there is a rejection dysphoria. Sensitivity dysphoria. That's a huge part of a lot of people's diagnosis. So absolutely.
So like rejection sensitivity was actually the concept that we were studying in this early research. And so what we wanted to do is, how do you induce that feeling in the laboratory in a way that resembles everyday life? And so we stumbled on a powerful method for doing that. So what we did is we recruited people. I was in New York City at the time in graduate school. We recruited people from all over New York, so not just college students, with flyers. This was in the Stone Age, mind you. Like
when they had paper to communicate.
Paper, exactly. Like pre-iPhone. We posted these flyers that said, have you recently been rejected in a serious romantic relationship lasting at least 6 months? If so, participate in a study on social and physical pain. And we paid them handsomely to do that. And what we asked them to do, part of what we asked them to do in the study, was bring a picture of the person who rejected them. And so if you've ever been rejected by another person and still feel positively towards them, like what does it feel like to look at that photo album after you're no longer with that person? It induces that feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so that's what we did in this study to kind of get them to experience that emotion. And then we tested a few predictions about how to help them actually feel better. And so that's typically the kind of things we do in our studies. We are often putting people in temporary, uncomfortable positions. We always have an ethics review committee tell us it's okay. And then we try to find tools, easy to use tools that people can use to manage those experiences.
Your latest book, Shift, Managing Your Emotions So They Don't Manage You. What does it mean to manage emotions?
Okay, it means three things. It means being able to turn the volume on your emotions, whatever you're feeling, up or down. So increasing or decreasing the intensity of what you're feeling. It means being able to lengthen or shorten how long you sit in an emotional state. And it means being able to in some cases, shift entirely from one experience, anxiety, to another, joy. Those are the three features of shifting: volume up or down, how long the emotion lasts, and what state I'm in. And I think the ability to develop some expertise in that is something that we have been struggling for as long as we've been roaming the planet in our present form. So there are historical records of our ancestors struggling with this. So if you sometimes have trouble managing your emotions, like, welcome to the human condition.
Yeah.
And it's also, I just think, a vitally important skill that has the potential to help do what I founded the lab to really study, which is help people lead better lives, more fulfilling and happy lives.
If I had a superpower, it would be able to manage my emotions better. I mean, seriously, once I figure out how to get all the protein I need and sleep through the night consistently and manage my anxiety, it's over for you people. I'm going to be unstoppable. But in reading your book, which I learned so much from, but there were many times you were talking about, the power of anxiety and how anxiety is a tool. I am part of the population that I'm medicated because I oftentimes would wake up with just crushing anxiety, can't get out of bed anxiety.
Yeah.
So hearing
and I'll jump in and say that you needed it.
Right. But
for sure,
I will say that, so hearing sometimes anxiety is a tool, anxiety is good for you. I'm like, what does Ethan know? So I'm sure I'm not the first person.
But let me ask you, is that really what you thought about me when in your inner monologue, or were there some other choice words sprinkled in when you heard me say that?
No.
He wants you to manage your emotions and say what's on your mind.
Absolutely.
I like that. Let's do this.
Having met you in person and listening to your voice, you sound like you were born this way. You were born happy. You were born you were born without crushing anxiety and depression. And aren't you just really lucky? I know that you've done a lot of work. I'm assuming you've done a lot of work just from your education and what you do for a living. So I am willing to extend that and say
I don't hate this guy.
I don't hate him totally right now.
Yeah, I'm going to wait 20 minutes and form my judgment after this interview. So first of all, I experience anger and anxiety and sadness like the best of us at times. Here's what I'd like people to know about their emotions. And most people find this messaging really liberating, actually. You so often hear that, hey, you should strive to just lead a life filled with positivity at all times. And the implicit idea there is if you're not always happy, there's something wrong with you. What I like to tell people is if you experience anxiety and anger and sadness, at times, there's nothing wrong with you. To the contrary, there's everything that is right with you, because that we evolve the capacity to experience those negative emotions for a reason. So I'll give you a couple of examples, how the hell can anxiety be useful? Give a lot of public presentations. When I think back at the ones that haven't gone as well as the others, they're the talks when I experienced zero anxiety, because I had no internal set of cues that effectively communicated to me, hey, dopey, pay attention. That is what I refer to myself in those situations. Focus. and prepare for this important task. You want to do a good job. I just kind of rolled in and, I was kind of flat. So anxiety helps alert us to things that matter. It can get us to prepare. Now, if the anxiety becomes too intense or lasts too long, that is an example of an otherwise healthy tool no longer being healthy. Too intense, too long, you want to intervene. And the good news here is there's so many things you can do to intervene, but we don't teach people what these tools are. I have students when I teach in college who ask me after I finish the semester, "This is great, Professor Kross. Why didn't anyone teach us about these tools earlier in life when they could have made a difference?" I think that's a problem.
So you talked about the 3 factors. Volume was one of them. I think it's important to note that people experience anxiety, and that's different from having an anxiety disorder. So that's where the volume gets to the point where sometimes you just need medication. Sometimes you need something to help get you past what an active panic attack is. But I'm super interested in going back to some of these tools, particularly when you introduce Dopey, which is your inner voice, that we were getting into self-talk there. Mine is called hole. So I think most people have that as it. So can we just kind of go back and talk about somehow this is another new thing that I got to learn about, because self-talk, I've always just heard you need to limit self-talk if you have the type of brain that I have, which is a rejection sensitive ADHD brain. What's the secret recipe to that without it getting out of control?
Okay. So let's break down self-talk and how that works. So self-talk, it's both an asset and a liability. So you do not want to live life without an inner voice. And let me explain why really briefly. First of all, what is your inner voice? It's your ability to silently use language. If, I asked you to just repeat "Go Blue" 3 times silently in your head.
Or "Go Tar Heels."
Go Tar Heels. Silently 3 times. Can you do it?
Yep.
Okay, you just activated your inner voice. What does it do for us? How is it good? Research shows athletes who can harness this voice to encourage and motivate, they do better. And then, of course, we get rejected. We experience loss in our lives, and we try to make sense of it. Why did this happen? What does it mean about me? You use your inner voice to help you create stories that help us understand who we are. So your inner voice, it's a really good tool. Here's the downside of it. It can often get us into trouble because we try to use this tool to work through the difficult stuff, but we get stuck. We ruminate, we worry, we self-critique. I call that chatter. It's the dark side of your inner voice, and it's a big, big problem, which Penn is probably why you've heard to stay away from it, right? Because it can make it hard to focus, right? All you could think about are your worries over and over. You can't pay attention to the person across the table from you who's maybe wanting to tell you about their day. It can create friction in our relationships with other people because all you're doing is talking about your problems over and over, and even your most well-intentioned loved ones and friends, they don't want to hear you talking over and over, right? They pull away. And there are health problems that are linked with it too. So there's a good side and a dark side to your inner voice. And the real key is to figure out, how do you harness it? How do you prevent it? How do you prevent this kind of chatter from spiraling? Lots of tools you can use there too. So Dopey is an example of one. It's a version of one. It's called distanced self-talk. What distanced self-talk involves doing is silently, so Penn, silently using your own name and you, or a nickname to try to coach yourself through a problem. All right, Ethan, how are you going to manage this situation? Research shows that can be really helpful for allowing people to objectively work through their problems. And here's how this works. Have either of you ever found that you are much better at giving advice to someone else than taking that advice yourself?
100%.
Yes.
Okay, this is a universal, right? We are all giant hypocrites.
Yes.
We are all fall victim to this bias. Here's the really cool thing about this tool. It's the reason it's my number one go-to if I'm struggling with something. Most of the time that you use the word you, it's like pointing a finger at someone else. You need to do this. We use the word you in names when we think about and refer to other people. So when you use the word you to refer to yourself, or if you use your name, it's automatically switching your perspective. It's putting you in this advice giving mode. I'm pretty good at giving advice to other people. I just often suck at doing it for myself, right? So you're using language to automatically switch your perspective. And that makes it a lot easier for us to give ourselves good advice. So that's one easy to use tool. Let me give you two other very low hanging pieces of fruit here. Yeah. There's a set of tools called mental time travel. When I'm really struggling with something, I'm really anxious about something, I go into the future and I ask myself, I actually use my name to do this, to Ethan, how are you going to feel about this next year, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? When I do that, it highlights for me automatically something that all of us know to be true. We know in our core this is true, that as bad as what we're going through is, it will eventually fade as time moves on. How am I going to feel about this 5 years from now? How am I going to feel this when I'm a grandpa and I'm like following the kids around? Like, that shifts your perspective and that can take the edge off. So that's mental time travel into the future. Last thing I'll mention on this time travel is you can also go into the past. So I open up Shift by telling the story of my grandmother.
Which, by the way, thanks for doing that. You like put me in an emotionally compromised position in the beginning of the book. Like I'm like sobbing reading the book, and then it's about how to control your emotions. It is a beautifully told story. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And so the story was, my grandmother's in her early 20s. She's living a small town life in Eastern Poland. The Nazis invade. In a short order of time, her family slaughtered. She narrowly escapes that fate. She's homeless for several years, manages to move to this country with nothing, rebuilds a family. I end up, being part of that family. And, this is just a remarkable experience. And when things feel like they're not going well for me, I'm effectively on the couch with a cold compress, telling my wife, like, what, it's over. What's going to happen, right? Like, it really feels like the world is caving in. I jump into the mental time travel machine and I set it for 1943, and I get out and I spend some time with my grandmother. I don't have to spend a lot of time for my perspective to powerfully be broadened. Like, really, Ethan, this is what you're worried about? You could have had everyone you love just killed. And so these are small mental shifts, easy things that you can do if you know how to do them. And look, they're not wiping away anxiety and anger and sadness. They're not turning hard moments into tea parties, with ice cream. What they're doing is they're turning the volume down just a little bit, which is often what you need to get in there to solve the problem and move on.
First of all, the stories you continue to tell about your grandmother throughout the book are beautiful. She sounds like an amazing woman. She didn't, I identified with this part. She didn't talk about this a lot with you. I mean, she was a wonderful, supportive grandmother who you had a great relationship with, but she wasn't pointing to it a lot. She wasn't
like once a year.
Yeah, she would talk about it. I would say I can manage my emotions well, but by managing them, I just choose not to feel them. So avoidance, but in her case, because she had this truly traumatic experience, it wasn't always a bad thing though, right?
That's right. So, we often talk about avoidance as though it is a uniform harm. Like, never avoid your emotions. It's almost like you have to make a choice. You can either approach and immerse yourself in a problem, or you can avoid it, and that's it. Not true. So if there's one take home I hope people leave the book with, is that there are no one size fits all solutions for managing your emotions. Different tools, different approaches work for different people, and being flexible is really important. This is what my grandmother benefited from. Once a year, she would go deep. She would gather with other people who survived the war, and they would immerse themselves in the stories of what they went through. And then they'd go back to life and they'd distract from it and they'd revisit it a year later. And that is something that worked really well for her. She lived to her early 90s and had a beautiful life. And so it's really about finding the combination of tools that work best for you, and not assuming that everything is going to work for everyone.
Can I tell you what my mental time travel is?
What?
It's, and here, reading your book and listening to you talk, I'm like, I think I do something sort of like this, but it's a little weird.
Let's hear it.
When I get overwhelmed and flooded, I don't go into the future and say, hey, Penn, what's this going to be like in a year, 3 years, 5 years? I go outside the Earth. I go outside the solar system. I'm looking at the Milky Way. I think, and then my brain is gone. It's because I read a lot of sci-fi, Ethan. I think about the fact that like I'm sitting here driving a car, stewing, whatever it is that I'm doing, the miracle that happened and how many gajillions of things had to happen. And then, oh my God, then someday it's just going to stop. Do you know what I'm going to say? Like, this is crazy. I've never explained this out loud to anyone.
This is called a shrinking of the self phenomenon. And so you're going out there, this kind of like space view of yourself. You can, and that's a way of distancing, getting perspective on you. Like, I am a speck in this broader universe. So this happens a lot to people when they go see these awe-inspiring sights. Mm-hmm. So like a beautiful sunset or I'm a sci-fi geek too. It's something we have in common. Like my awe trigger is I think about the fact that there is an SUV roaming on planet Mars right now, and it's sending footage back. My mind is not that sophisticated. Like, how the hell did we figure out how to blast a vehicle off this planet, safely landed on another planet, and project video?
Ethan, we shot something the size of a refrigerator at a comet a couple of years ago, a million miles away, and we fricking hit it.
Here's how this works. Awe, it's an emotion we experience when we're in the presence of something vast and indescribable. It just feels bigger than ourselves. Amazing sunset, contemplating like the galaxy, the number of planets that exist in the universe. When you experience this emotion of awe, it leads to this experience of a shrinking of the self. You feel smaller when you're contemplating something vast and indescribable. And when you feel smaller, guess what else feels smaller?
My problem?
Your problems. So this is a way of putting things in perspective. So keep on putting on the spacesuit, going out there. Maybe don't do it when you're driving because that might be a little dangerous, but certainly on walks around the neighborhood.
Is it possible that this like obsession with reading sci-fi before bed and like watching these shows is a form of like accidental anxiety management for me?
All of us are stumbling on solutions to try to manage this messy world we're living in. Like, we don't want to feel pain for long periods of time, however you define that, anxiety, sadness, whatever, anger. So we stumble on solutions, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work, they make things worse. I think the value of science here is, like, you do not have to stumble. Like, why are we not giving people science-based guides to manage their emotions from the outset?
Okay, you had another story in your book about a woman who had her daughter had a really awful peanut allergy incident on a plane, and that triggered from there a lot of intrusive thoughts. And that is something that I, in my life, like it when it got bad, it got really bad, like OCD, kind of obsessive about that stuff. And talk to us about how, and I think that whole self-talk thing helped, but talk to us about those simple cues she used to kind of get out of that spiral.
Okay, so the first thing to recognize, like clearly, and Penn, you said this before, there's a distinction like between the negative emotions, intrusive thoughts. These are just normal parts of how human beings work. Now, when taken to an extreme, they can become more harmful. And that's when you want to get more intense forms of intervention. But all this exists on a continuum. So step one is I really like to normalize for people the fact that intrusive thoughts, like negative thoughts that pop up in your mind and you're ashamed of, this is a universal feature of how our minds work. When I'm teaching about this stuff with undergrads, I'll have them anonymously. I'll ask them a question like, have you experienced a dark thought that you're ashamed of and wouldn't want anyone else to know within the past week or two? If so, I want you to just pipe it into a survey, and no identifying information, so it's totally anonymous. There's some dark stuff that comes out there, and guess what? There's dark stuff that happens in all of our minds at times. So one thing that people often find to be like just recognizing this first and foremost, this is how the mind works. Like that in and of itself, I think can help a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with you if you experience an intrusive thought every now and again. I tell this anecdote in the book of when I'm at the gym, I will often have a dark thought of I'm carrying a dumbbell from one side of the gym to the other. And there's a person on a yoga mat in my way. I'll often have this thought of dropping the dumbbell on their face. Like, this is
dude, I've had that. I've had that same
right?
thought. What is going? Yeah.
And what would happen if I like dropped it like right squarely in the middle? I mean, it's not a pleasant experience thing to imagine. Now, what's happening in my head? It's probably my mind generating a worst case scenario that I don't want to happen, because when I have that thought, what I do is I switch hands that the dumbbell is being held in, and I take the longer route. I stay like 20 feet away from them. So there's an adaptive feature to it. But I know that every now and again, my mind's going to spit off something that I don't endorse, I don't believe. And as long as I don't act on it, that's okay. So that's number one. Intrusive thoughts are part of how we operate. So you can't control what's going to pop into your head. But once that emotional thought is activated, you can control what happens next. And knowing that, I think, is step one.
And it was helpful for me because I'm probably amongst the camp of people I'm like, oh, I have no control over this. Now I know that there are measures in which I can control. And I do think my imagination's very active, and I can spiral on something that, all these terrible things. And I used to be a news reporter, so I've heard of every terrible thing that could happen in any circumstance. Like, yeah, I got stories about jet skis and water parks and stuff. Like, you would never get into any of these things. So and then when I hear my kids like, oh, we're going on jet skis, I have to now, instead of imagining the horrible, tragic thing that could happen, I'm going to imagine, what if they have an amazing time? What if they are super safe and they wear their life jackets and they have an amazing time? And I picture them having fun. Like that kind of changes the feelings in my chest. So
it works.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a muscle. And I think all the tools you listed and that you've talked about here today, they are going to take that shift. I mean, the name of the book, but it's going to take that. It's like a muscle that I'm going to have to exercise, and soon it will become, I hope, the habit of, you do the time travel, you get some physical distance, you get some mental distance, and just being able to like rename the talk I have with myself.
I'll just say it does take time. Different tools for different people.
Where can people find information? We're going to have the links to both of your books in our show notes, but where can people find information about what you're doing?
It's going to shock you. www.ethankross.com.
I just love that you added the www.
Yeah. Well, I loved your book. I had the tools were very useful, and I'm one of those people that I love a rule. I love instructions. I love a script, but I don't love it unless I know why. So the explaining the science behind why I'm doing this was really helpful. So must read for my anxiety girlies.
Thank you. As you both know, as celebrated authors, there's nothing better than knowing that a book has impact on people in some way, because that's why I think a lot of us do this. So it's great to hear that some of those tools resonated.
So I thank you for doing the research, and I thank you for writing the book.
Well, thanks for having me on. This was super fun.
Love Ethan Kross and all the work he's doing. And yeah, I'm going to start managing my emotions, and it's all over for you once I figure out how to do this. Watch out, world.
So this is going to be your revenge emotions. It sounds
Could you
like
imagine,
did you just turn that into a revenge thing?
No, what I would be capable of. Oh my gosh. If I didn't have crippling anxiety, what I could do in this world?
Yeah.
What?
The key would be managing it so it doesn't all entirely go away, right? Like I know that was the part that was tough to. I know
some anxiety is good for you.
It is.
No, it is. No, I know. So it's good to have it, but can you imagine? Like, I would. Oh my gosh, the world would be a different place.
Yeah. Let's go to the laugh lines. Laugh line. Play the open.
Laugh line. It's the part of the show where everyone will find. Laugh line. But you call us up and you tell us what's on your mind.
Recently, we had an episode where we asked ourselves, are we too old for all-inclusive resorts?
And we said yes, because it felt like a lot of pressure to eat and drink all the food, right?
Yes.
It would just be better and cheaper actually if we just went to a normal resort. We had a brilliant counterpoint to this.
Hey, my name is Allison. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and I just listened to your second episode, and I love it. But you guys talked about, are we too old for all-inclusive resorts? And I'm going to one next week. It's also out of the country. And I'm very excited because we're going with our young adult children who we don't live with anymore. They're in their early 20s. And I am excited that we won't have to deal with logistics, like where are we driving for dinner? What's the menu? What does it cost? Like all that money stuff is gone. We're not worried about that. And I get that we could get a better deal somewhere, but now we don't need to think about it, which I'm very happy about. And as far as the drinks go, that's just on me to be in moderation, which, may or may not happen depending on the day. But I love that for our family and for our young adult kids, it's just wide open. It takes all the think out of it and the planning and the researching, which restaurant should we go to tonight. So I am very excited about that part. And I'll let you know later if I'm too old for it. But I think it is going to be perfect for my family. Thanks so much for your podcast. Love it. Bye.
All right, Allison, I want you to call us back after the trip. And I have some follow-up questions for you, and you can call and answer them. Okay, question number 1, how much did your kids drink? Because they were, if my parents took me to an all-inclusive resort in my early 20s, they would not make a dime off of me. Although it's interesting, the one time that we did go, they make these pina coladas and they make them so sweet that you can only have so many.
I mean, really good too.
So then my second question is, what was your general stress vibe compared to when you take another vacation? Because I think she might be right about the planning part.
She has changed my mind. Yeah. I think that if my kids were in their early 20s, I think that is a genius way to do a family trip.
But right now, no.
Right now, no.
Got it.
Speaking of alcohol, we have another segment we like to call
What Gen Zers Are Saying. So we don't know what our daughter is talking about most of the time. And we feel like we're not alone here. And we feel like we can help you by giving you a weekly definition of a word we've heard that we now understand.
Okay, Gen Z slang of the week. Borg. If you are a loyal listener of this podcast, you have heard us talk about it because I, according to People magazine, I believe.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Am an expert, but Borg, B-O-R-G, stands for blackout rage gallon. And it's a large individual size alcoholic beverage, often prepared in a gallon jug. It typically contains hard alcohol, water, flavorings, and electrolytes. Here's what I was saying. I think that these are actually good things.
Yeah, right. So here's what happens. Someone had a Borg comment somewhere on social media, where they had this gallon. Kim commented on that page saying, and I love this, Kim, quote, Borg is way better than the stuff I drank out of bathtubs and lined trash cans when I was in college. Right? Because you have control over what it is. And there's so much crap people are putting in their drinks. There's stories about this all over the place. So People magazine comes out with an article. All you have to do is Google Kim Holderness Borg and you'll pull it right up. And it was so ridiculous, but we got a good laugh out of it. Thank God my wife has a good sense of humor because it was written as Borg, the damaging trend that college children are doing. And it's all these doctors, like Dr. Mitchell Trubisky. It was like, it can cause lots of hospitalization. However, internet influencer Kim Holderness disagrees and thinks that Borging is awesome.
Or something like that.
These, and then they quoted completely out of context that social media post that I just had, not explaining anything at all, which is you about what if they're putting fentanyl or whatever in
Right.
your drinks, and just left it out there. And it was and look, I love people. I read people.com.
They had an exclusive on our book launch cover.
They
Love
did,
you.
But this was a hilarious misuse of one of your interviews, and so now Kim is known as the Borg Queen of America.
Of America. Okay, here's where it's problematic. If it is full to the brim of nothing but alcohol, absolutely horrible. Do not do this.
Right.
But as a woman, and I'm sending my daughter to college, and we've already had the talk, like you take something that's closed, you don't take something for people you don't know. I am so concerned about people putting things in women's drinks that if you can control what you're drinking, you can also put Gatorade in it. It doesn't have to be alcohol. Or if it is, it's so light and you still feel like you're participating. So that's what I was saying, is that my first frat party that I went to in college, they were putting
trash cans.
In trash cans, they ran out of alcohol and they were putting cough syrup in it.
Oh.
Okay. So I thought if I could have brought whatever, and it would not have been pure alcohol. That is my defense of it. If it's truly just 100% grain alcohol or something, no, that's awful. Don't do that.
Borg advocate Kim Holderness disagrees with these distinguished doctors.
New merch items?
We're going to end with a hashtag not sponsored. This is where we talk about stuff that we love that no one is paying us to talk about.
And so, by the way, we love lots of things. And if people are paying us to talk about things,
We'll do it.
and we like those things,
Yeah.
we have to like the things. Okay.
But that's not this.
But what if somebody sponsored the not sponsored segment?
That would be meta as bleep. This week's hashtag not sponsored is this new show that I found
It's not new.
for me. This show that I've newly found. Yeah, it's been around for like 5 years, called Game Changer. My son, God bless my son, he's like really into improv comedy. He introduced it to me. It's got adult situations. It's got bad words. My son's 15. He's been through it. It is the most joyful content I have found in a very long time. I would say since Ted Lasso. First of all, it's the celebration of these incredibly hysterical comedians who can just come up with anything, because the concept of the show is it changes every week and you don't know what it's about until it starts. And the guy who runs it, Sam Reich, his dad was like Secretary of Labor for Clinton. He is the best game show host I have ever come across. And I am a huge game show host snob.
And you know that I want to be married to a game show host. That's my dream job.
I couldn't do what he does. He yes ands people so well. He gets the most out of everyone. His laugh is part of the most like important part of the show. Everyone in this show comes up with incredible stuff right on the dot, and he keeps the show moving perfectly. Everyone so clearly loves each other who's there. It makes me want to hang out with all of them. Sam is nodding her head. Sam is.
Tell them where we can watch it, Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge Game Changer fan. Game Changer is available on Dropout TV. That's dropout.tv. They've got a bunch of great shows on there.
And so fun.
I laugh so hard.
As soon as I get the notification that the episode is live, I'm like, drop everything. I'm watching it.
I know. It's a definitely for our family, especially because PC's so into improv comedy. It's been a fun one.
Anyway, this segment was not sponsored by Game Changer. Laugh Lines is written and produced by Kim Holderness, Penn Holderness, that's me, and Anne-Marie Tapke, with original music by Penn Holderness. It is filmed, edited, and live produced by Sam Allen and hosted by Acast.
As always, we love to hear from you. Please write us at podcast@theholdernessfamily.com or leave a voicemail at 323-364-3929, and we will talk to you soon on the Laugh Line.
We did it!